Hey guys, so this is now part two of our scary, ghostly type movie poster project. And in this part, we're going to talk about starting to mess around with the actual image and trying to make the image look a little bit more like it's from a um, movie poster. So I'm back in Photopea with my project. And so one of the things I kind of forgot to mention in the last project at the very end, and I should mention this is, you when you're done, you just don't close out. You need to go to File, and then you're going to go to Save as PSD. So make sure you do that every time you're in Photopea. Um, I'll have to write reminders and stuff on Schoology, so you remember to do that. Um, okay, so there's a lot of things that in Marty's tutorial, when he started messing around with the face and stuff like that, we were able to get it cut out. We will be able to make it black and white like he did. We are not going to be able to do some of the other filters that Marty was able to do because Photo P doesn't have them. But we will be playing around with layers, and we will be able to cut it up, kind of like he did in Photoshop. So one of the first things you want to do is when you have your image. I always like having multiple layers to mess around with. When layers are interacting with each other, you can get some really cool effects. So I'm on our top layer, which is the picture of the person, and I'm going to hit Command J to make a duplicate layer. So that's Command J or Control J on a PC, Command J on a Mac, and you'll make a second layer. So right now I'm just going to be messing around with the top layer. Um, so Marty uses a filter, and the best ghostly filter is diffuse glow. Well, guess what? Photopea does not have diffuse glow. So if you're in Photoshop and you go to filter and you go to filter gallery and then to distort, you'll be able to get diffuse glow. But diffuse glow is not in here. You can play around with a lot of these other um, filters and stuff like that if you want to. That is completely up to you. One of the filters we will definitely play around with to make this look ghostly is the blur tools. So if you go to filter, so that's the filter drop down menu, and you go to blur. I'm going to go to Gaussian blur, which is your basic blur. And well, that came out pretty good. That's 7.2 pixels is pretty good. If you blur too much, you completely lose the image, and actually you blur it so much that actually the image starts to come back just in a grayed out version. So I'm just gonna blur this. It's up to you. You guys can decide. I'm just gonna go with like 7-ish pixels, and then click OK. Now that kind of makes it look a little more ghostly. Um, so and that's one of the things that diffuse glow would do too, is kind of blur it out and make it look less grainy or more grainy depending on the settings. Another thing you do besides blurring it is control the lightness and darkness of it. And under image, so that's the image drop down menu, and you go down to adjustments, which is right at the top here, and levels. You can control the brightness and contrast. If you hit Control L on a PC or Command L on a Mac, you can get to this window real quick. Now remember, there's a pictogram here. We've used this a lot in class. If you click and drag these bars underneath the pictogram here, you can brighten this. Now we're only brightening the layer that we blurred. We're not brightening the layer underneath it. So is what's kind of cool is that if we brighten this up a little bit, it does definitely make it look a little more ghostly. And I'm going to click OK. And there's still a layer underneath it, right? That's the original layer down there. This is our messing around layer up top here. If I turn the bottom one off, it does darken it a little bit because of the blur. You're actually seeing through the top layer a little bit. I kind of like the way they're interacting with each other, so I'm going to leave it like that. That looks pretty cool. So that's one of the things Marty does, and you guys can play around. There's a lot of different filters up here to mess around with. So you can do that. If you want to play with liquefy or distort and kind of like, make it look like it's a little spherized or something like that and twirled to make it look like a horror movie mask type thing, you can mess around with those things. I'll leave that up to you. So you can definitely take this uh, in more directions than what I'm telling you to do right here. I want you to be creative and find things in Photopea as well. So, um, one of the other things that Marty does, he uses a lot besides filters, is the adjustment layers. So if you're on the top layer and you click this adjustment layer, its icon, that's the one that looks like my favorite cookie, he used something called black and white, which was pretty cool because he was able to select by clicking on the picture using the sliders, which was really cool. Um, there's different things and stuff in here to play around with. I'll leave that up to you. Uh, you know, it depends like how crazy you want to make this. Different variations of this might change your picture, it might not, I don't know, but you can play around with that until you get something you like. Entirely up to you guys. I don't really like that all that much, so I'm going to end up taking this adjustment layer. And if you want to get rid of an adjustment layer, or any layer for that matter, you just drag it to the trash can and it goes away. Okay, and that's how the layer window works. You can also try something like a gradient map, or you can do hue saturation, and you can mess around with the colors as well. So if I want him to look a little more bluish, I can move this over to the blue area and maybe bring the saturation down so it's less colorful, a little bluer, a little scarier. Okay, so that looks kind of cool. Now, one of the things Mario does too is he slices the image up, which is really neat. Problem is, we have three layers here that are like all messing with each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge those layers together. Okay, so I just want to make sure that worked before I told you guys how to do that. If you want to make layers into one layer, so I like the way this looks. It's kind of cool. Maybe before I merge these layers, I'll bring the opacity of the blurred layer down a little bit so it's not so. This way it allows a little bit of the crispness from the underneath layer to come through, because I want some of that to come through without it losing all the blurriness. So I'm gonna put that down to 85. That's pretty good. All right. So I want these three layers to be combined. If I click on the top layer and hold shift and click on the third layer, these are the layers I want together. Now you might have more layers in this. You might have more adjustment layers in this. That's up to you. So you have to select all the layers. And I did that by shift clicking the layers. You can also click on one, and if you hold control, I can add other layers to it. Now, the key command for merging layers is Command E. You can also go to the layers drop down menu and go to merge layers, but if we hit Command E right here, right now, it takes a second. Up, there it goes. And now these are all merged into one layer. That's not bad. And this makes it easier to cut things up if I want to cut things up. So to cut things up, I'm going to use polygonal lasso. And I'm going to take polygonal lasso and I'm just going to click in one spot. I'm going to go down across my image. If you want to make this a jagged line, you could make this a jagged line if you want. That's up to you, like a kind of a lightning bolt type shape. And I'm going to go all the way out here, and I'm just clicking. So this is polygonal lasso, which is the lasso tool that looks like this right here. So that's regular lasso. This is polygonal lasso, and I'll show you again real quick. Command D is deselect. So if you get something that's really crazy, just hit Command D. So I got my polygonal lasso, and I'm just going to click once, click twice, click again, click. So it's making straight lines. Click, 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 and back to the top right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on its own layer. So I'm going to hit Command X, and then hit Command V. And it should pop up on its own layer. And it didn't. All right, so let me undo. And when I hit, how about if I hit, all right, what if I just take the move tool then? If I take the move tool, oh, there we go. That's pretty cool. I can just move it over or move it up or overlap it kind of like that. That's with the move tool, but you see you got like these other things going on. I'm surprised that I'm not able to copy and paste that. Command C, Command V. Okay, I'm able to, oh yeah, there we go. I'm able to copy and paste it, but I wasn't able to cut and paste it, which is really weird. But all right, so you can hit Command C, Command V, and then copy and paste that to a new layer. If I wanted to, I could go back and erase some of the parts underneath. But really, I just want this to look like a little bit cut apart. Okay, and if you want to cut more shapes out of it, you totally could. You know, just use that lasso tool again, and I can just click and drag. I mean, not click, just not drag, just click, click, click around and back upon itself, and then you get the dancing ants. And then I'm going to try this again. I'm going to hit Command X. That cuts it right out of there, and then Command V. That is crazy that doesn't cut and paste. So let me go back. Let me just go up. I'm really stupefied by this. So if we go to Edit, Cut, Edit, Paste. Well, that worked. So Edit, Cut, and Paste worked. So there you go. If you go up to edit and you go to cut and you go to paste, you could do that. So now I got this really kind of cut apart here a little bit, and it does give it a little bit more of a horror movie feel. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to mess around with the face, and that's really all I want you to do in part two. So you have filters, you have image adjustments, so you have your adjustment layers. You can also go to image adjustments and find some things and mess around with the color. And then you can use the polygonal lasso tool, which is right here, to cut out parts of your image and then maybe just move them around a little bit and copy them to different layers. Okay, kids, have fun.